Ravi was a quiet young man who lived in a small apartment at the edge of the city. He worked as a technician at a local electronics store, repairing gadgets and machines, but his true passion was something much older. Radios. Not modern radios, but old bulky ones with dials, antennas, and wires that twisted in every direction. He loved the way they hummed, the way they could pick up sounds that no one else could hear. Every night after finishing his work, Ravi would sit by his desk surrounded by these old radios, headphones around his neck, a notebook open beside him, and a pen ready. For months he had been tuning random frequencies late at night, hoping to hear something unusual. Static noises, faint clicks, random signals, he had heard them all. Most nights he would smile at a faint tune or laugh at a strange pattern, but tonight felt different. There was a chill in the air, the kind that made the hair on your arms stand up. Ravi didn't notice it at first because his attention was fully on the radio. He slowly turned the dial, moving it in tiny increments, listening carefully. His room was quiet except for the low hum of the devices. Outside, the city was sleeping, lights flickering in distant apartments, cars moving occasionally along the empty streets. Suddenly, a new sound came through the static. It was soft, almost a whisper. Ravi froze. He leaned closer to the radio, adjusting the volume. The sound repeated, slightly louder this time. It didn't resemble any human voice he had ever heard. It was smooth, calm, and somehow commanding, almost as if it belonged to someone who was speaking from far away, yet somehow close enough for him to feel it in the room. Ravi frowned. Then through the interference, a clear sentence emerged. "Are you alone, human?" Ravi's heart skipped a beat. He looked around the room, half expecting to see someone standing behind him. But there was nothing, just his books, his tools, and the quiet glow of the lamp on his desk. He took a deep breath and whispered, Who is this?" There was no answer for several seconds. Then slowly the voice returned, louder and more certain. "Answer me, human. Are you alone?" Ravi felt a cold shiver run down his spine. His hands shook as he adjusted the antenna, trying to find the source. But it didn't matter. The voice was not coming from any ordinary place. It sounded as if it was coming from everywhere at once. The static crackled around it, but the sentence remained distinct, chilling in its clarity. Curiosity fought with fear in Ravi's mind. He had always wanted to discover something extraordinary, something that no one else had heard. Could this be it? The voice continued, "Do not hide. I'm aware of your presence." Ravi's pulse quickened. The words were calm, not threatening, yet they carried an unexplainable power. He wrote them down in his notebook, shaking slightly. His hand hovered over the dial, unsure whether to tune out or stay. He finally spoke, his voice trembling. "Who are you?" There was a long pause. The only sound was the soft buzzing of the radio. Then the voice returned, almost like a sigh carried over miles and miles of space. "I am the Queen of the Silent Realm. You are not supposed to hear me." Ravi's eyes widened. The words sounded impossible. He rubbed his eyes, wondering if he was dreaming. The room felt colder now, and the hairs on his neck stood straight. He had no idea what the Silent Realm was or why a queen would speak to him, yet something about the voice made him unable to turn away. It was mesmerizing, as if it had a hold over him. He reached for his notebook, writing everything down. The exact words, the time, the tone of the voice, the way the static sounded. Every detail mattered. He wanted proof, not just memory. The Queen's words repeated in his mind even as he wrote. He felt both excitement and fear. Something extraordinary was happening, and he was right in the middle of it. Ravi spent hours listening, adjusting, and recording. The voice rarely spoke again that night, but tiny whispers and patterns appeared in the static. They almost seemed like a language, but not one he could understand. Yet it felt intentional, like someone or something was trying to communicate, slowly guiding him to learn. As the night grew deeper, Ravi noticed small changes in his surroundings. His old radios, usually cold and lifeless, seemed to hum softly even without power. The shadows in the corners of his room moved slightly as if they were alive. He tried to dismiss it as his imagination, but deep down he knew this was no ordinary experience. His heart pounded with a mixture of fear and thrill. Unable to sleep, he decided to research. He pulled out his laptop and began looking for anything about strange radio signals, voices from nowhere, or mysterious frequencies. He found stories of people hearing unexplainable signals, messages from unknown entities, and even historical accounts of signals that predicted strange events. One story mentioned a queen of the silent realm, though the details were scarce and mostly from old legends. People had thought it was a myth, a tale told by those who heard voices in the night. But Ravi knew what he had heard. It was real. The hours passed like minutes. Ravi scribbled pages of notes, diagrams, and possible explanations. He tried to convince himself that it was some advanced satellite experiment or a prank, but nothing fit. The voice had a presence, intelligence, and awareness that no machine could imitate. He felt an unshakable certainty that this was a being far beyond human understanding. By the early morning, Ravi was exhausted, but he could not stop thinking about the Queen's voice. "You were not supposed to hear me," she had said. Why him? Why now? And most importantly, what did it mean? As sunlight began to creep into his room, Ravi finally allowed himself to rest. He sat in his chair, notebook open, radio still humming softly. His mind wandered, imagining the silent realm. What did it look like? Was it beautiful, terrifying, or something else entirely? He could not see it, but he could feel its presence through the voice. It was vast, infinite, and unknowable. Ravi knew this was only the beginning. The signal had chosen him for a reason. Whether he wanted it or not, he was now connected to something far greater than himself. His life would never be the same again. The Queen had reached out across space and time, and Ravi had answered. And somewhere, far beyond the stars, the Queen of the silent realm waited, listening, patient and unyielding, knowing that the human who heard her voice was now part of a story that had already begun. Ravi closed his eyes, exhausted, but his mind raced with anticipation. He did not yet understand what lay ahead, but he could feel it. The signal was just the first step, and his life was about to change forever. The night had been long, the voice had been terrifying, yet he felt a strange thrill. He had glimpsed something extraordinary, and he could not turn away. For the first time in his life, Ravi realized that curiosity was not just a habit, it was a calling. And he had answered. The next morning, Ravi woke with a pounding head and restless thoughts. He had not slept well, not because of tiredness, but because the voice of the Queen lingered in his mind like a shadow he could not shake. He rubbed his eyes and glanced at the broken radio. Somehow, the device that had seemed so ordinary before now felt like a portal to something impossible. He felt a mixture of fear and excitement. It was not just curiosity that called him. It was the feeling that something beyond human understanding was reaching out specifically to him. Ravi knew he could not face this alone. He thought immediately of his friend Meena. She was smart, curious, and always ready to explore mysteries. She worked at a small observatory near the city and loved astronomy. Ravi remembered how, as children, they would lie on rooftops for hours, staring at stars and imagining distant worlds. If anyone could understand what he was experiencing, it would be Meena. By mid-morning, Ravi packed his notebook, the radio, and all the cables he had used the previous night. He took a bus to the observatory, the streets unusually quiet, as if the city itself were holding its breath. Meena greeted him warmly, though she looked surprised to see him so early. Ravi set up the radio in one corner of her small laboratory and explained everything, his experiments, the signal, and most importantly, the Queen's voice. Meena listened silently, her brow furrowed. When he finished, she smiled nervously. "Ravi, that sounds incredible, but also a little impossible." "I know," Ravi said, his voice low, almost pleading. "I thought it might be a satellite or some kind of prank. But Meena, it wasn't like that. It was intelligent, aware, and it spoke to me." Meena paused and finally agreed to help him. She brought out her computer and hooked the radio to a device that could analyze frequencies. "If there is anything here, I want to see it too," she said. For hours, they listened and watched. The signal remained faint, often buried in static, but patterns began to emerge. Meena's equipment highlighted unusual sequences that seemed to repeat rhythmically. "These aren't random," she whispered. "Someone or something is trying to communicate." Then, without warning, the voice returned. Ravi and Meena froze. "You should not call again," it said. The tone was calm but firm. The words seemed to fill the room, pressing against their minds. Ravi's hand trembled as he adjusted the dial, trying to understand the meaning behind the sentence. Did it just say, "Don't call again"? Meena asked, her eyes wide. "Yes," Ravi whispered. The same voice, the Queen of the silent realm. A chill ran down Meena's spine. "Ravi, we need to be careful. Whatever this is, it's not ordinary, and it knows we are listening. Ravi nodded but felt a strange pull. Even though the voice had warned him, he could not stop thinking about it. He wanted to know more. The idea of turning back now seemed impossible. His curiosity had grown too strong. That night, Ravi returned home, the radio tucked under his arm. He could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he imagined the Queen standing somewhere beyond space watching him. The memory of her voice made his skin crawl. He wanted to resist, to turn the radio off, but a small, unstoppable part of him wanted answers. By midnight, he had set up the radio on his desk once again. The room was silent, but the moment he turned the dial, the voice returned. "Human, you are not supposed to hear us." Ravi swallowed hard. He had expected fear, but now he also felt something else, connection. The Queen's voice was not just sound. It carried a presence, a kind of awareness that seemed to touch him inside. He took a deep breath and spoke, his voice trembling. I want to understand. Who are you? What is the Silent Realm?" There was a long pause, and for a moment Ravi thought he had imagined the reply. Then the voice came again, clearer this time. "Curiosity is dangerous, human. You should have left this alone. But now you have heard me. You are part of this path. The Silent Realm is not for your kind. It is vast, endless, and beyond the comprehension of humans. Yet, you will see it," the words sent a shiver down his spine. Ravi felt a mix of fear, awe, and fascination. He could barely comprehend the idea of a place beyond space and time, ruled by a being who called herself a queen. It sounded impossible, yet the voice made it feel real. The following days were strange. Ravi noticed subtle changes in his apartment. His old radios, even when unplugged, hummed faintly. Shadows seemed to shift in unusual ways. Even the reflection in his mirror appeared slightly delayed, as if observing him with its own awareness. Ravi tried to ignore it, but the feeling of being watched never left him. Unable to resist, he returned to Mina's observatory the next evening. He told her everything, the changes, the humming, the strange reflection. Mina listened carefully and then suggested an idea. Maybe the Queen's presence is not limited to the radio. Maybe the radio is just the beginning. If she exists, she might be influencing other devices or spaces. Ravi nodded, his mind racing. The thought terrified him, but he could not stop. Together they began recording everything. Radio signals, computer interference, and even small notes about what happened in their surroundings. Every anomaly, no matter how small, was documented. As the night deepened, the Queen's voice returned once more, not just through the radio, but faintly in the room itself. Ravi and Mina froze. "You are being watched," it whispered, soft and echoing. "Curiosity has a cost." Mina clutched Ravi's arm. "We should stop," she whispered, her voice trembling. "This is beyond us." Ravi hesitated. He wanted to stop, he really did. But the pull of the unknown was too strong. "I cannot," he admitted. "I have to understand. I have to know why it chose me." The voice responded, slower this time, as if measuring his determination. "Human, you are not ready. The path ahead is dangerous, but your mind seeks knowledge and your heart is persistent. You will see even if you are unprepared." Ravi felt a strange mixture of fear and excitement. The Queen was warning him, yet the warnings made him more determined. He spent the rest of the night recording the signals, trying to decipher patterns. He knew he was on the edge of discovering something extraordinary, something that could change everything he understood about the world and beyond. By morning, both Ravi and Mina were exhausted. They had gathered hours of recordings and pages of notes. Mina suggested taking a short break, but Ravi shook his head. He could not stop thinking about the Queen. Her voice haunted him in the silence, her presence lingering like a shadow just beyond the corner of his mind. "I feel like she's testing us," Ravi said quietly, staring at the radio. "She knows what we are capable of. She knows our curiosity, and she wants to see how far we will go." Mina frowned. "Or maybe she wants to warn us. Maybe she is giving us a chance to stop before something worse happens." Ravi thought about that, but deep down he knew he could not stop. The voice had reached inside him in a way no human voice ever could. It was a challenge, a mystery, and a lure all at once. He was drawn to it, even as it filled him with fear. That night, before sleeping, Ravi placed the radio on his desk, notebook beside it and headphones ready. He whispered to himself, "I have to know." And with that, he turned the dial, preparing to listen to the Queen's voice once more. Somewhere far away, across a realm beyond human understanding, the Queen heard him and she waited. She had sent a warning. She had spoken of danger. But she had also acknowledged his presence. And now the true journey had begun. After the warnings from the Queen, Ravi's life began to change in ways he could not explain. Days felt heavier, and nights became restless. Every time he closed his eyes, he imagined the silent realm, vast and dark, with a presence that seemed both distant and near. Even though he could not see it, he could feel its awareness like a soft pressure at the back of his mind. Ravi knew that something extraordinary was reaching for him, and he was no longer just a curious human. He was part of something much larger, something he could neither understand nor escape. Strange things began happening around his apartment. At first they were small, almost unnoticeable. The hum of his radio seemed louder even when unplugged. Papers on his desk shifted slightly as if moved by an invisible hand. Shadows in the corners of the room seemed longer than usual, stretching in directions that did not match the light. Ravi tried to tell himself it was his imagination, the result of sleepless nights and stress. But the more he tried to ignore it, the more obvious it became. The most unsettling change was the mirror in his bedroom. Ravi had always liked that mirror. It was a simple frame, nothing special. But one evening, he noticed something strange. His reflection did not move exactly as he moved. If he raised his hand, his reflection raised it a fraction of a second later. At first, he thought it was a trick of the light or fatigue, but soon he realized it was consistent. The reflection seemed almost alive, watching him, waiting. Ravi's heart raced. He sat in front of the mirror, staring at himself, but the reflection seemed to look past him, as if focusing on something behind him. A cold sweat formed on his forehead. He whispered, "Is this real?" The reflection did not answer, of course, but the slight delay in its movements felt deliberate, intentional. Ravi knew this was not normal. Something from the silent realm had followed him, or perhaps had always been there, waiting for the moment he would listen to the Queen's voice. Unable to sleep, Ravi called Meena that night. He explained everything, the shadows, the humming, and the strange reflection in the mirror. Meena listened carefully, her voice calm but concerned. "Ravi, this is serious. You have opened a path to something that is not meant for humans. You need to be careful. This could be dangerous, I know," Ravi admitted, "but I cannot stop. I feel like she is testing me, or maybe guiding me. I need to know what this is," Meena sighed. "Then at least don't do it alone. If you continue, I will stay with you. We can observe together." That night, Ravi agreed. Meena arrived with her recording equipment, cameras, and extra lights. They set up the room carefully with the radio in one corner, the mirror directly across from it, and cameras positioned to record every angle. The air in the apartment felt heavier, almost like electricity before a storm. Ravi felt a mix of fear and anticipation. As the clock approached midnight, Ravi turned on the radio. The static filled the room, louder than before, as if the Queen was aware of their preparations. Then her voice emerged, soft but clear. "Human, you are being observed. Your kind is not meant to witness this." Ravi's hand shook as he adjusted the dial. "We just want to understand," he said quietly. "We mean no harm," the voice replied slowly, deliberately. "Intentions do not matter. Awareness is dangerous. Curiosity can cost more than life. Yet you persist. You have chosen to see what is hidden." At that moment, the room changed. The shadows grew darker, moving along the walls as if they had their own shape and purpose. The mirror's reflection became clearer, but it was no longer a simple image of Ravi and Meena. In the glass, they saw a vast, shadowy space stretching endlessly. Faint lights moved in the darkness like stars, but not quite stars. Figures, tall, glowing, and unfamiliar, seemed to drift in that space. Meena gasped, "Ravi, do you see that?" Ravi nodded, unable to speak. The image in the mirror moved independently, not copying their actions. The Queen's presence was unmistakable. "You are closer than most," her voice said. "Few humans see this. Even fewer survive it. Observe but do not touch. The silent realm is patient." Suddenly, Ravi felt a cold touch on the back of his neck, though no one was there. The hair on his arm stood straight. He turned slowly, but the room was empty. Meena clutched his hand, her face pale. This isn't normal," she whispered. Ravi shook his head. "I know, but it's real. It wants us to see. I can feel it." For hours they observed the mirror and the radio, noting every sound, flicker, and movement. The Queen's voice returned intermittently, sometimes in whispers, sometimes in long sentences. Each word felt heavy, like it carried a weight that reached beyond the room, beyond the city, beyond the stars. As midnight turned into early morning, Ravi noticed something even stranger. His own reflection began to move independently for longer periods, sometimes doing things he had not done yet. It reached for the radio before he did, paused, and then retracted its hand slowly. The Queen's voice spoke softly. "You are learning. The path is longer than you think. Watch carefully." Ravi's mind raced. What did she mean by learning? Was the reflection teaching him something or testing him? Fear and curiosity battled inside him. He wanted to look away, to stop, but the pull of the unknown was too strong. By dawn, both Ravi and Mina were exhausted. They had recorded everything, but the experience had changed them. The room felt alive with energy, the shadows moving gently along the walls. Even after they turned off the radio and cameras, the hum of the apartment remained. Ravi knew the Queen was still watching, still aware of their presence. "I think she's trying to communicate something," Ravi said, staring at the mirror one last time before leaving. "But I don't know what it is yet." Mina nodded. "Whatever it is, it's bigger than us. We need to be careful. Don't get too close, Ravi. Don't let curiosity make you careless," Ravi promised, but deep down he knew he could not stop. The shadow in the mirror had shown him a glimpse of the silent realm, a world so vast and unimaginable that it made everything in his life seem small. The Queen's voice had reached across space to touch him, and he could not ignore it. Over the next few days, Ravi noticed other subtle changes. Lights flickered when he entered a room, objects moved slightly when he looked away, and faint whispers echoed at times when he was alone. Sometimes even the city outside seemed quieter, as if waiting for something to happen. Ravi realized that the silent realm was no longer just a voice. It had become a presence that touched everything around him. One evening, Ravi sat alone, staring into the mirror. The faint reflection moved differently from him again. He whispered softly, "What do you want from me?" The mirror remained silent for a moment, and then, as if answering, the Queen's voice echoed, "Observation is the first step. Patience is required. You will learn in time, human." Ravi felt a mix of fear, awe, and determination. The Queen had warned him. She had shown him shadows, whispers, and reflections, but he could feel that the story was only beginning. There was much to discover, much to witness, and much to understand. And somehow he knew that Mina's presence, the recordings, and the night itself were all part of the path the Queen had chosen for him. By the time Ravi finally rested, the first rays of sunlight had touched his room. The mirror reflected him normally again. The shadows seemed calmer, and the humming had faded. But Ravi knew it would return. The Queen's presence was patient, and the silent realm was waiting. Ravi understood one thing clearly. He was no longer just a human listening to a strange signal. He had become part of a story that spanned worlds, a story written by a Queen whose voice could reach beyond time and space. And whether he was ready or not, his life had been changed forever. Ravi had been preparing for nights like this for a long time, though he had not realized it. The Queen's voice had grown stronger, her presence heavier, and the strange reflections and shadows had become part of his reality. Even with Mina by his side, the feeling of something watching, something vast and patient, had become impossible to ignore. Every sound, every flicker of light, every hum from the radios seemed like a signal, a whisper from a world he could not yet see. It was the third night after the shadow in the mirror. Ravi and Mina set up their equipment carefully. Cameras were positioned to capture every angle of the room. Sensors and meters were attached to record fluctuations in light, sound, and temperature. Every precaution was taken, but Ravi knew deep down that the usual rules of safety did not apply here. The Queen's realm followed its own rules, and they were about to discover them. As the clock struck midnight, Ravi turned on the radio. The static filled the room, thicker than ever. Then, as if responding to their preparations, the voice emerged, soft at first, then stronger, clearer. "You have come far, human. You have observed, you have learned. Now you will see." Ravi's hand trembled as he adjusted the dial, listening intently. Mina's eyes were wide with anticipation and fear. The static grew louder, and then suddenly the room seemed to change. The air thickened, heavy and warm, yet carrying an invisible pull, a force that seemed to stretch the limits of reality. The radio glowed faintly blue, as if alive. Ravi stepped back, holding his breath. The Queen's voice echoed, "Do not fear, only observe. Only see." Before their eyes, a circular shape formed above the radio. It shimmered faintly like heat waves rising from the ground. Slowly, the circle expanded, revealing a dark, endless space filled with moving lights that flickered like distant stars. It was a realm that existed beyond comprehension, a place that seemed both infinite and intimate, both terrifying and beautiful. Ravi's jaw dropped. Mina gasped. Ravi, it's real. We are seeing it. Ravi could hardly speak. His eyes were fixed on the portal, unable to look away. In the center of it stood a figure taller than any human, glowing with a silver light that seemed to pierce the darkness. Her crown, delicate yet commanding, shone with a soft radiance. The queen herself was there, watching, waiting, her presence overwhelming every corner of the room. Why are we here? Ravi whispered, though he felt his voice barely mattered. The queen's voice resonated in the room, but also in their minds. You called, human. Curiosity opened the path. You are seeing what was meant to remain hidden. Mina held Ravi's hand tightly. This is incredible. But I feel danger too. Ravi nodded. I know. But we have to understand. The air around them began to ripple like water disturbed by a stone. The portal pulsed faintly, casting light and shadow across the walls. Objects in the room trembled as if responding to an invisible force. The hum of the radio grew into a low vibration, filling their ears and chests. Ravi felt his heartbeat race, but he could not look away. Human, the queen said, her tone calm but firm. The silent realm is vast and ancient. It exists beyond time, beyond your understanding. Few of your kind have ever glimpsed it. Fewer still have survived the knowledge it contains. Ravi swallowed hard. What happens if we step closer? The queen's eyes glowed brighter and a soft wind seemed to move through the room. You may step closer, but understand this. The path is not simple. Awareness comes with responsibility. Curiosity may awaken things you cannot control. Despite her warning, Ravi felt an irresistible pull. He stepped forward, and the light from the portal brushed his face. The hum of the radio seemed to harmonize with his heartbeat. Mina tried to hold him back, but he shook her hand gently. I have to do this, he said. As he neared the portal, the shadows in the room shifted more violently, moving along the walls like living smoke. The temperature dropped and then rose suddenly, as if the air itself were alive. Ravi reached toward the glowing circle. The moment his fingers touched the edge of the portal, a wave of light and energy surged through him. His mind was flooded with images. Distant worlds, moving stars, infinite darkness, and shimmering lights. He could feel the silent realm stretching across space, touching everything and nothing all at once. Mina screamed. Ravi, stop. Pull back. But Ravi could not. His senses were overwhelmed, yet he felt no pain, only understanding. The queen's voice spoke inside his mind, soft and commanding. You are learning. The path of awareness is not given lightly. Observe, remember, and respect the silence. For what felt like hours, Ravi stood there immersed in the portal. Time seemed meaningless. He saw visions of ancient civilizations, beings of light and shadow, and vast landscapes that defied logic. He felt connected to everything at once, as if his mind were expanding beyond his own body. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the energy receded. The portal shrank, the glow faded, and the room returned to normal. Ravi stumbled back, breathing heavily, shaking with adrenaline and awe. Mina rushed to his side, checking if he was okay. Are you all right? She asked, her voice trembling. Ravi nodded slowly. I think so, but we've only seen the beginning. The queen, she showed me part of her world. It's unimaginable. The queen's voice echoed one last time, faint and distant. Remember this, human. Curiosity opens doors. Knowledge awakens understanding. But the silent realm watches patiently. You are never alone. Ravi sat down exhausted, his mind racing. The room felt smaller now, almost ordinary. Yet he knew it had been forever changed. The queen's presence lingered, subtle but undeniable. Even the air seemed charged, alive with possibility. Mina sat beside him, recording everything in her notebook. Ravi, what we just witnessed. It's beyond anything I imagined. But I feel like we are only seeing the start. There is more to come, isn't there? Ravi nodded. Yes, the queen warned us. This is only the first glimpse. Whatever comes next, we need to be ready. For the rest of the night, they discussed what they had seen. They tried to describe the silent realm, the figures, the lights, the vastness, but words felt inadequate. How could they capture a world beyond comprehension? How could they explain the feeling of being watched by something infinite, something aware? By dawn, both Ravi and Mina were exhausted but awake with a strange energy. The Queen had allowed them a glimpse, a brief connection, and the memory of it burned in their minds. Ravi knew that the portal could return at any moment, that the Queen could speak again, and that the silent realm was patient, watching, waiting for the next step. Even after the equipment was packed away and the apartment returned to normal, Ravi felt the pull of the Queen's presence. The radios hummed faintly, the shadows lingered longer, and the mirror seemed just slightly delayed again. He realized that the portal had changed him. He was no longer just an observer. He was now part of the Queen's awareness, linked to the silent realm in ways he could not yet understand. Ravi understood one thing clearly. The portal had shown him a path that was irreversible. Curiosity had opened the door, and now he was part of a story that spanned worlds, a story written by a queen whose voice could reach across space and time. And whether he was ready or not, his life had been changed forever. After the night of the portal, Ravi could not sleep. His mind replayed every detail, the infinite darkness, the shimmering lights, the figures moving beyond comprehension, and the Queen herself towering and radiant watching him. Mina had left after they packed up the equipment, exhausted but alive. Ravi stayed behind, unable to tear his mind away from the experience. Even in the quiet of the apartment, he could feel the lingering presence of the silent realm, subtle yet undeniable, like a faint hum beneath the surface of everything. For days, he tried to return to normal life, but the world felt different. Even the smallest sounds, rain tapping on the window, the hum of a streetlight outside, the soft whir of a fan, seemed amplified. Shadows moved slightly differently. The radios hummed even when unplugged. Ravi felt watched even when alone. The Queen's words echoed constantly in his mind. "You are never alone." One evening he sat by his desk, staring at the broken radio. He had tried not to turn it on, afraid of what might happen, yet curiosity gnawed at him. Slowly, almost unwillingly, he connected the device and turned the dial. At first only static, then faintly a voice called, "Human." Ravi froze. His pulse raced. The voice was not through the speakers alone. It seemed to resonate in his chest, in his mind. "Are you alone?" The words made him shiver. He whispered back, "No, I am not alone." A long pause followed. The radio crackled violently, sending small sparks onto the desk. Ravi stepped back, wide-eyed. "Who is there?" The voice came again, softer now, like a whisper carried on the wind. "You have seen beyond. You have touched the path. Soon, you will join what you have observed." Ravi's heart pounded. He remembered the portal, the vast realm beyond space, the Queen's towering presence. His thoughts raced. Was the Queen summoning him? Was this a warning or an invitation? He reached for his notebook and began writing down every word, every sound, every detail. The radio's glow pulsed faintly, almost like a heartbeat. The room's air felt charged, thick and alive. Shadows shifted across the walls, moving toward the center of the room where the radio stood. Ravi's breath came in short, shallow gasps. Suddenly, the glow from the radio expanded. The circular portal from before began to reappear, small at first, then growing larger, shimmering with silver light. Ravi could see the faint outline of the silent realm again. Endless darkness dotted with moving lights, shadows, and figures. Mina's voice echoed in his memory. "Be careful. Don't get too close," but Ravi could not resist. He stepped closer, drawn by curiosity and a strange, undeniable pull. The Queen's voice spoke in his mind. "You have come far. The path is yours to follow." As his hand reached toward the portal, a strong wind seemed to blow through the apartment, scattering papers and shaking the furniture. Ravi felt a tug at his mind, pulling him forward, pulling him toward the unknown. The Queen appeared at the center of the portal, her silver crown glowing brighter than before. Her eyes locked onto him, radiating both power and curiosity. "You have chosen to see, human," she said, her voice echoing across the room and through his thoughts. "Few of your kind endure the path you walk. Awareness brings responsibility. What you have learned cannot be unlearned. What you have seen will remain within you forever." Ravi swallowed hard. I want to understand," he whispered. The Queen extended her hand toward him. A gentle force seemed to pull him forward, yet it was not threatening. "You may see more than you imagine, human. But know this. Your world is not ready for all that you will know. The silent realm is patient, You must be careful, for curiosity is both gift and test. Ravi felt a mix of fear and awe. He could sense the weight of her words, the vastness of the realm, the knowledge beyond human understanding. His mind raced with questions. What was the Silent Realm? How did it exist? Why had it chosen him? And most importantly, what did the Queen expect from him? The portal pulsed again, and Ravi felt the presence of countless beings, shadows and figures moving gracefully through the darkness. Some seemed curious, others distant, observing silently. He realized that he was not alone in the Silent Realm. Countless others, beings beyond imagination, were watching and waiting. Then suddenly the radio flickered violently, and the voice of the Queen changed. The time comes, human. You must decide. Will you step fully into what you have seen? Or will you remain in your world, forever aware yet separated? Ravi hesitated. The pull of the portal was strong, almost irresistible. Every part of him wanted to step forward, to see more, to understand fully. But another part, reason, fear, and respect for Meena and his world, warned him. He thought of the quiet city outside, the life he had, and the uncertainty of leaving it behind. I don't know if I'm ready, he whispered. The Queen's voice softened, almost understanding. Readiness is never complete, human. The choice is yours. But know this, knowledge once given cannot be taken away. You will carry it forever, and you are never truly alone. Ravi took a deep breath. He stepped back slightly, resisting the pull of the portal, but his mind was flooded with visions of the Silent Realm, the endless darkness, the moving lights, the glowing figures. He understood why so few humans had survived the experience. The Queen's world was beautiful, yet overwhelming, infinite, and beyond human comprehension. Hours seemed to pass. Ravi felt exhausted, mentally and physically, yet exhilarated. The portal slowly shrank, the radio's glow dimmed, and the apartment returned to normal. Shadows still lingered slightly longer than they should have, but the heavy, tangible presence of the Queen receded. Meena returned the next morning, sensing that something extraordinary had happened. She looked at Ravi and saw the change in his eyes. He was quiet, thoughtful, and different, someone who had seen a world no human could describe. What happened? She asked softly. Ravi shook his head. I don't know if I can explain it, Meena. I saw something beyond. Something that exists beyond space and time. The Queen. She spoke to me, and I felt her presence everywhere. I felt aware, connected, and changed. Meena nodded slowly. I can tell. You carry it with you, and I think we are part of something larger now. Over the next days, Ravi noticed that even ordinary life was different. Sounds, shadows, and reflections carried a strange energy. Even when the radios were off, he could sense faint signals, as if the Silent Realm itself was always nearby. He understood that his life had been irreversibly linked to something vast, something beyond human comprehension. Then, one quiet evening, Ravi's computer screen flickered. Words appeared slowly, glowing faintly on the black screen. You are not alone, human. Ravi's heart raced. He whispered, Where are you? The reply came almost immediately. I am near. The path continues. You are part of what you have seen. Soon, you will join fully. The screen went black. Ravi sat in silence, overwhelmed yet strangely calm. He understood now that his curiosity, his courage, and his willingness to listen had connected him to the Queen and the Silent Realm forever. He realized that life as he knew it had ended, and a new story had begun, one that spanned worlds, dimensions, and mysteries beyond imagination. He looked at the city outside his window, the lights twinkling softly, and whispered to himself, I am not alone. And somewhere, far beyond the stars, the Queen watched, patient, radiant, and eternal, knowing that Ravi, the human who dared to listen, had become part of a story that would continue long after the world had fallen silent. Ravi understood the truth. Some doors, once opened, can never be closed. And in choosing to see, he had stepped into a realm where knowledge, mystery, and the Queen's presence would follow him forever.